What is up, players? It's Warboss Tay back up in this mug. Welcome to a video showcasing my Ulthwe Eldar Rangers. These are all in Finecast. We've got 5 of them we're going to take a look at, and I'm really pleased with how they turned out. They were even, hard to believe, but they were even more riddled with miscasts than the Howling Banshees, and so I didn't want to do an unboxing because there wasn't really any point. You couldn't see the models as they should be seen. A lot of the pieces were broken off and needed to be reattached, and it was just really not that great, and I think not indicative of Finecast's improvements over the years, quote unquote, because there have been Finecast kits that I've seen with not nearly as terrible issues with the miscasts. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to work on these guys, get them all built up, rebuilt, cleaned up, painted, and what do you know, it looks like with a little bit of elbow grease and some patience and just putting in that extra effort, even Finecast models can be made all pretty. They can be all pretty, mama. And so let's see, what can I share with you? My camouflage scheme is very simple. It's basically Thunderhawk blue with Steel Legion drab, and then Rhinox hide, and I use some grays also, Eshin gray and Karak stone for the really light yellowish beige color. And yeah, and then you just shade it with some Agrax Earthshade and build those colors back up a bit. The rifles were just lifted, literally the color scheme was taken right out of Games Workshop's models that they have on display in their web store. So I use Dryad Bark for the casing, Lead Belcher for the Lead Belcher for the scope thing, with some gold accents, which I just use in Retributor armor so they can match the rest of my Eldar models that I'm painting. The main thing you want to keep in mind is how are you going to carry over similar colors between your models. So even though the Howling Banshees are very obviously they're not going to have any of this urban camouflage colors, they still can have the same highlights with their bone armor. The black on both of the Howling Banshees bodysuits and the armor pieces, as well as the rifles for these Rangers, is simply Eshin gray, and a couple of successive layers of that. Fine lines on the edges of all of the black areas will give you a really nice edge highlight. The skin tones I was really pleased with. I was using Vallejo paints for these skin colors, and I think it was basically just the two colors from Vallejo. It was the skin or flesh highlight to brighten it up, but for the base I used just base flesh or basic flesh, and just adding a little bit of that skin tone highlight gives you really nice colors there. I think Vallejo does some of the finest skin colors because they're so easy to mix and build up in layers. With skin tones especially, you don't want to just slap on the colors of the paints onto the models. I think if you remember my old models where I'm painting skin on, or flesh colors, I was using Games Workshop paints, and a lot of their old skin colors, and even some of the newer ones, are very thick. Like Bugman's Glow is very thick for a skin color, and it's just a little too red. And rat skin, flesh, and I believe there's a couple of other skin colors that Games Workshop comes out with. I'm not really too keen on. The Vallejo colors, they're thin enough that you can use them right out of the bottle. And the bottles, of course, they're dropper bottles so they don't dry out. And they're just so much better to use. So I highly recommend looking into the Vallejo skin colors, their range of skin colors for your skin tones on your models. And let's see, you don't really see the backs in the pictures, but I wanted the pouches and the carrying case for the rifle to stick out, but also be consistent with their gloves and the rifle itself and their boots. So I just painted it in Dryad Bark like all of those other pieces are painted. First I was thinking, oh, maybe I'll just do it in the colors of the camouflage, and I tried that and it just looked really messy. It didn't really catch the eye. And then I realized, like, if I'm camouflaging all of that stuff, you're looking at it from across the table, it's going to be camouflage. It's going to look like the rest of the model. It's going to blend in and just be this really big, ugly mess. So in the end, I decided, you know what, I'm going to make them look cool and separate by themselves. So the backpacks and the pouches and the ammo cases that are slung onto their backs is all painted in Dryad bark, shaded with Agrax Earthshade like everything else was, and highlighted back up with Dryad bark, and then using Steel Legion Drab to bring that color tone up just a little bit. All right, you guys, I'm really pleased with how these Eldar turned out. I think they are just exactly what I was planning them in my mind. You know how I do a little bit of a pre-visioning of what I want the finished model to look like? I think everybody should do that, because even though your finished product might not end up where you want it to be, it's a good idea to have a basic sense of what the finished model should look like using the colors that you're going to be using. And I wasn't sure if the urban camouflage would pan out, especially because I was going to be mixing it with the black and beige armor of the Ulthwe craft world, but in the end they look great. I should have put a picture of them next to the Howling Banshees. I lined them all up to make sure that the bases were consistent and that they kind of matched each other in tone, and they look really great next to each other, you guys. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hit that like button. Don't forget to leave me a comment down below, and we will see you in the next video. Thanks again.